Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging headfirst into a world filled with, well, ancient power, absolutely dazzling courts, but also some really simmering treachery.
Exactly. We're setting the stage for a deep dive into a story of betrayal right at the heart of it all.
And this journey takes us into the Ghaznavid court, doesn't it? Specifically looking at one figure.
That's right. We're focusing on Vizier Hasanak. And our guide here is mainly this fascinating account called The Web of Betrayal, Hasanak's Downfall.
Which itself is based on something even older.
Yes, it draws heavily from the Tariq-i-Bayhaqi, an incredible 11th century chronicle by Abul Fazl Bayhaqi. Our mission really is to untangle this complex web. The lies, the accusations, the rigged trial that decided Hasanak's fate.
Okay, so let's set the scene. Where and when are we?
We need to go back to 1030 CE. Picture this. You're in the palace in Ghazni. It's opulent grand.
And there's a specific event happening.
Yes, a big one. The old Sultan, Mahmud, has just died. His son, Masood, is being crowned. So the air is buzzing, with celebration.
I can almost picture it. What would that throne room have actually looked like? Felt like?
Well, Bayhaqi paints an amazing picture. Torches everywhere, making the light flicker across these incredible marble walls.
Decorated with?
Turquoise mosaics. Just stunning. And you've got courtiers everywhere, dressed in these rich, jewel-toned robes.
Mingly celebrating.
Sipping wine from silver goblets, yes. And there are dancers, music, daft drums, knee flutes. It's a real spectacle of power and wealth.
But you mentioned treachery earlier, so beneath this glittering surface?
Exactly. Beneath all that celebration, there's already this undercurrent of tension, unease.
Okay, let's meet the main players in this drama. First, the new Sultan Masood. What's he like?
Masood's a young man, tall, sharp-eyed. His golden crown is gleaming, but you can see he's restless. He doesn't have his father's steadiness.
So maybe a bit insecure, temperamental.
That's the impression. Temper, paranoia.
Yeah.
It's already casting a bit of a shadow. It's a different vibe from his father's rule.
And standing right near him.
Vizier Hasanak, still in his place of honor, wearing the striking turquoise robe. But Bayhaqi notes something interesting.
What's that?
He says the robe seems heavy with the weight of a new reign, almost like foreshadowing, given Hasanak was very close to the old Sultan, Mahmud.
Ah, okay. A potential loyalty issue in the eyes of the new king, perhaps. And there's a rival.
Oh, yes. Watching from the crowd is Abu Sal Zuzani. Long beard, piercing eyes.
And how does the source describe his look?
Watching Hasanak with a venomous smile. It really sets the tone.
It certainly does. It backs up Bayhaqi's observation about the court.
That it glittered, but its heart was a nest of serpents. You've got this new king, Masood, rising, but these old grudges are still there, ready to strike.
And Hasanak standing there so proudly.
Completely oblivious, it seems. Unaware that betrayal is literally coiling around him.
So things move quickly from this point. Who makes the first move against Hasanak?
It's Abu Sal. He clearly sees Hasanak as a threat, maybe feels his own influence is diminished, and he spots Masood's insecurity.
Sees it as an opportunity.
Exactly. An opportunity to exploit the Sultan's paranoia and bring Hasanak down. And he doesn't wait around.
How does he start?
There's this scene described Abu Sal in a dimly lit corridor, meeting secretly with Khwaja Busal,
And Basel.
a trusted advisor to the new Sultan, Mogand. So a direct line to the king's ear.
And this is where the plot kicks off, the core deception.
This is it. Abu Sal pulls out a letter, a forged letter.
Fabricated evidence.
Completely fabricated.
Yeah.
It accuses Hasanak of secretly working with the Cormation,
And Cormations were?
a rebellious sect, seen as enemies of the Ghaznavid state, a very serious charge. Abu Sal apparently says in this low, oily voice, this low-born vizier dreams of power beyond his station.
Wow. So playing directly into potential class resentments and the Sultan's fears of instability?
Precisely.
Yeah.
The letter looks elegant, but it's pure poison, claiming Hasanak wants to destabilize the empire. It's a classic tactic, isn't it? Create a threat to manipulate a nervous ruler.
And I assume this doesn't stay secret for long.
Not at all. These rumors, these lies, they just spread like wildfire through the court.
Fueled by others who might have been jealous of Hasanak.
Absolutely. Courtiers who resented his rapid rise under the previous sultan. They amplify the whispers.
Which leads inevitably to a confrontation.
Yes. Hasanak is summoned. Picture him walking back into that same throne room. Masood is there, on his golden throne, holding that very letter.
And his expression.
Dark with suspicion. He looks right at Hasanak and demands, basically, What is this treason you're accused of, Hasanak?
How does Hasanak respond? Does he crumble? Does he try to placate the Sultan?
No, quite the opposite. And this is crucial. His voice is steady, maybe even a little sharp with pride. He says something like, "This is just a scrap of lies. My loyalty is to Persia, not its enemies."
Standing on his dignity and his record.
Exactly. But Bayhaqi points out this is also Hasanak's flaw. He writes, his pride burned brighter than his caution, turning friends to foes.
So that very defiance, while maybe admirable in one sense, was politically dangerous in this court.
Extremely dangerous. It wasn't just about being truthful. It was about navigating a minefield. That kind of proud response, it closed doors. It didn't leave room for maneuvering or calming the situation down.
That's a really sharp insight from Bayhaqi. It feels like a turning point. Does anyone try to warn Hasanak?
There's a poignant moment mentioned. He's in the palace gardens with his friend, a loyal scribe named Ahmad Khwarazmi.
And Ahmad sees the danger.
Yes. He warns him, saying something like, "The court is a storm, Hasanak. Your words are fanning the flames." He's urging caution.
But Hasanak,
Still defiant. His reply is essentially, "If truth gets trampled by lies, I'll still hold my head high." It's noble, perhaps, but also seals his fate.
and the consequences are immediate.
Terribly swift. Right after this, he's stripped of his title, his position, everything, and he's physically dragged away
To where?
to a cell. A cold stone cell beneath the palace. The description is bleak. Dank, damp walls, just a sliver of moonlight. You hear chains clanking as he paces, his beautiful turquoise robe now tattered.
What a dramatic fall. From the height of power to a dungeon cell.
It's a brutal contrast to the opulence we started with.
And then comes the trial. Is it held formally?
Oh, it's held formally, all right, back in the main throne room, ironically. But it's a complete sham.
How so?
Abu Sal parades in these courtiers, witnesses who've clearly been bribed or intimidated.
And they testify against Hasanak?
They claim they saw him meeting with Carmatian agents in secret. All lies designed to corroborate the forged letter. The crowd just watches, mostly in silence. Uneasy silence.
What does that tell us about justice in that environment?
It tells us that justice was basically what the Sultan wanted it to be. It wasn't about finding the truth. It was about confirming the Sultan's decision.
And Hasanak's reaction during this so-called trial?
Even in chains, he's defiant. His eyes are described as blazing. He declares, "Truth will outlast these lies, even if I do not."
Powerful words, but they fall on deaf ears.
Completely. Sultan Masood just ignores Hasanak's defense. He's clearly made up his mind. This is about him showing his authority, removing someone linked to the old regime.
It's more about power consolidation than anything else.
Exactly. Personal feelings, even potential innocence, don't really matter when power needs to be asserted like this.
Is there any moment of personal reflection from Hasanak recorded during this time?
There is one very touching, heart-wrenching detail. He manages to get a message out. He writes a letter to his mother.
How?
On a scrap of parchment, apparently smuggled out by a guard who felt some sympathy for him.
And the message?
It's short and chillingly final. "Mother, I live for Persia, and for it I will die."
Wow. That's incredibly bleak. What about the rest of the court? Did absolutely no one speak up for him, any of the nobles?
It seems not. Bayhaqi notes that some nobles did secretly pity him. They felt for him. But they were too afraid.
Afraid of facing the Sultan's wrath themselves.
Precisely. Too scared to speak out. Which leaves Bayhaqi to that grim reflection. The court devoured its own, mistaking loyalty for ambition. Fear trumped loyalty, or even basic decency, in that moment.
It shows how fear can paralyze a whole system, doesn't it? How power structures can just crush individuals.
Absolutely. It wasn't just Masood or Abu Sal acting alone. It was the whole atmosphere of fear and self-preservation that allowed this to happen.
So as we wrap up this part of the story for today, Hasanak's situation is dire. He's in his cell.
Yep. Trapped in that cold cell, just watching the moonlight, waiting. The verdict from this sham trial is hanging over him, but it feels inevitable. His star had fallen, as the source puts it, completely trapped in a web of lies.
It's a stark reminder of how quickly fortunes can change in these kinds of environments.
And Bayhaqi's account really drives home a deeper point, I think. It's not just about one man's tragedy. It's about how even admirable qualities like Hasanak's unwavering pride, his sense of loyalty, can become fatal weaknesses when they clash with the brutal logic of absolute power.
So his virtues almost worked against him in that political reality.
In a way, yes. It suggests that in that kind of arena, sometimes truth or honor, as you or I might understand them, aren't the most effective tools for survival. It's a sobering thought.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it leaves us with something to think about. Considering Hasanak's unwavering pride, his defiance, even when facing doom, what really stands out to you? If you put yourself in his shoes, knowing the court, knowing the risks, would you have maybe tempered your words, tried to play the game a bit more to survive, or would you stand defiant, like he did, even knowing it likely meant the end?